That's recording started.
Okay, thank you. Right. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the first Licence Board meeting of 2025. So I wish you all a happy time in 2025 and a healthy time. So we'll start today with, can I have apologies, please? And can also be told that members who are present today?
The apologies, convener, are from councillors Kevin Montgomery, Michelle Campbell and Jamie Maguire. In attendance we have yourself, convener, Councillor Catherine Kewen, Councillor Janice MacDonald, Councillor Andy Steele, Councillor John Gray, Councillor Bruce McFarlane, Councillor Jim Patterson. Can I just confirm that I haven't missed anybody? No. That's convener.
Okay, thank you, Douglas. Is there any declarations of interest? No declarations of interest. So we will now start at the applications here today under the Scotland 2005 Act. And the first application is for a major variation of premises licence, and that's Wright Street Convenience Store. Now I'm going to pass you over to our legal representative, Douglas, who will introduce this application and explain the procedure that we will go through today. Okay, Douglas.
Thanks, convener. Yes, this is an application for major variation. The premises are seeking to increase their current hours that they've applied for and obtained in terms of their terminal hour to the statutory hours of 10 till 10, basically. At the moment, you'll see from the paperwork that they have Monday to Saturday till 8:30 at night, and they currently close at 2:30 p.m. on a Sunday afternoon. So they're looking for the 10 to 10, which is the statutory hours. In terms of the rest of the application, they're seeking to change the wording, and it's been highlighted because the major variation, which does relate to off-licence premises, we're asking, it's the first time it's come back since the policy change, to consider adding the policy conditions to licence. So my understanding is that we don't have in attendance today the objector to the application, which is Mr. Stanton Gailey, but you do have his paperwork before you. We have a representation from Police Scotland, and I think Sergeant Finlay is here today.
Yeah. Yes, good morning.
Yeah.
I'm Sergeant Finlay. I'm here temporarily in place of Sergeant Ian Robertson, who I believe normally attends these licensing meetings. I have no prior experience of this format, so please bear with me and guide me through if you will, but I do have documents prepared which I believe have already been submitted in relation to this application for variation.
Okay, thank you, Sergeant Finlay. Thank you. Do we have a representative from the Wright Street Convenience Store here today too?
I was just going to come to that, convener. Thank you. Yes, we have, I think, Mr. Emsley is here for this matter on behalf of the Principal Agent, Mr. McMahon. Is that right? And I think you may have somebody else attendance as well from the premises, Mr. Emsley.
That's correct. Yes, I'm representing McMahon, and I've got Jonathan Limberis, who's the property director of the business and the premises manager.
That's me. Hi, everybody. I'm Jonathan.
Okay. Then we'll start the proceedings with, first of all, hearing from Sergeant Finlay regarding the representation to this application. So on you go, Sergeant Finlay.
Thank you, convener. So Police Scotland does not have any objection in principle to this proposed variation. However, in view of the proposal to allow a home delivery service, I respectfully request that in order to ensure the applicant complies with the licensing objectives, and in particular to that of protecting children and young persons from harm, the following conditions form part of any licence granted. Do you wish me to go through these conditions?
Yes, you could go through them. Yes, please.
Thank you. So a robust age verification policy requires to be in place for deliveries that include alcohol and must be strictly adhered to by all delivery staff, incorporating a Challenge 25 approach. Documentation presented as verification of age requires to be a type prescribed in the Licensing Scotland Act regulations under that Act as suitable for that purpose. An order register must be kept on the premises containing details of the alcohol ordered or dispatched, with details of when the order was placed and when the alcohol was dispatched. A delivery or refusal register requires to be maintained by the delivery driver, containing details of the person accepting delivery, or if delivery was refused, the reason for any refusals. No delivery of alcohol should be left unattended or with children or young persons where there is no adult available to accept the delivery. No alcohol to be collected from the premises by children or young persons. And finally, all alcohol for delivery must be transported and delivered in fully sealed containers. Now, should the applicant agree to all of the above, and should they all form part of any licence granted, then the Police Scotland representation may be considered withdrawn.
Okay, thank you, Sergeant Finlay. Douglas Campbell, do you wish to come in at this stage?
Thanks, Convener. It was just really to say, in terms of the comments from Mr. Santangeli, he has raised at point 5 of his letter the number of outlets. Now, I appreciate that this isn't a change to capacity or an additional premises, but it is a change to add to the hours. So I think we would normally select a locality in these circumstances, and we have set out the maps, Convener.
Okay.
So before obviously members have consideration of what is said, I think you would probably want to go through that procedure we had before. You'll see before you in the papers, Convener, that there is page 5 a plan showing a red circle, a blue circle, a green circle, which represents 200 metres, 400 metres and 800 metres from the application premises. And I appreciate there's no one here for the objector today, but obviously the applicant can make their submission as to whether the board should look at 200, 400 or 800 as a locality. So in the first instance, Mr. Emsley would have a chance just to address that matter.
Okay, Mr. Emsley.
Good morning, Your Honours. We would request the 400 metres as that would be what we would have deemed appropriate for what this is a local convenience store, Your Honours.
The next stage in that process can be as if members agree that they should look at the 400 or whether they should look at some other locality.
Well, I am fine with the 400. Are the members agreed with that?
Agreed.
Yeah, Kathy,
Okay.
I'm okay with the 4 as well, yeah.
Okay, thank you. So that's agreed, Douglas. So
thanks very much, Convener. Just confirm within the 400 metre squared radius, there are some 5 premises, 2 of which are on sales premises with a combined capacity of 1873, and 3 of which are off sales only premises with combined capacity of 25.97 square metres. In terms of that locality of 400 metres, Mr. Emsley, would you be asking the board, given that it's an off-licence premises, to look only at the off-sales premises, or would you be asking the board to look at all premises?
Due to the fact that it's an off-sales, we would propose that it's an off-sales capacity that's considered rather than the on-sales as well, Your Honours.
Is that agreed, Convener?
I am fine with that. Is that agreed, members?
Agreed.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Can just confirm for the record then, Mr. Emsley, and to those present, that the board will, in considering the application for any consideration of over provision, look at the 400 metres locality, which includes and don't look at off sales only premises, which is basically 3 premises with 25.97 square metres. And Convener, that takes care of the preliminary issues. Obviously, when Mr. Emsley addresses you, he can confirm whether the conditions regarding alcohol deliveries would be agreed.
Okay, thank you. And as already stated, the objector, Mr. Santangeli, is not here, but obviously the members have the objection in front of them, so take that on board, please. So we will now ask Mr. Emsley to speak in behalf of the application, and yes, also to take into consideration the conditions asked for by the police. On you go, Mr. Emsley.
Thank you. Good morning, Your Honour. So I'm Gordon Emsley, representing Holdstar Grocery Limited. I said earlier, Jonathan Limberis is accompanying me. The application is before you, Your Honours, is in 4 main areas. So the addition of 10 to 10 for alcohol 7 days a week. As was currently stated, we trade Monday to Saturday 10 till 8:30 and then Sunday 10 till 2:30. Item 2 is adding home delivery for food and alcohol. Item 3 is some minor changes to the internal layout, with changes mainly to counters. There's no increase at all in this application for increasing the alcohol display area or its repositioning. The last section is just generally a tidy up of activities that are already in place but not contained within the operating plan. All of these have been in place since the previous owner, my client, having run the premises in 2021. So these include lottery, pay point, hot food sale and delivery. And then in terms of representation, I can confirm that all the items requested for home delivery by Police Scotland will be in place. We intend using our own staff and training them to do the deliveries, and this will include all items noted by Police Scotland. With regard to the objection raised by Mr. Santangeli, who raised the following concerns. So shop hours, to date, there's been no issues regarding public nuisance since my clients took over, and we note that Police Scotland have not raised any objections or any statistics around antisocial behaviour. The increase in hours has been a constant request from customers as required for home delivery to develop the business. Like many retail premises facing a number of economic and financial challenges this year, this is just really a case of reshaping and remodelling the business to try and make it more sustainable in the longer term. In terms of hot food, the premises was most recently visited by Environmental Health on the 25th of October 2024. Hot food, including delivery, was in place and there were no issues. Mr. Santangeli has not complained about the present hot food, and we can confirm that there is no extension to the present menu or cooking methods or indeed times in which food is prepared, and food finishes between 2 and 2:30 p.m. The menu is very much a kind of breakfast and lunchtime, and kind of grab and go as part of that. We did upgrade the ventilation and extraction system as when the business was taken over to modernising it. And based on that, Your Honours, subject to questions, I would ask for your support with this application.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Emsley. Did you say that somebody else wishes to speak to this application?
No, just that
Right.
Mr. Limberis is here if there are
Right.
any technical questions for answering, Your Honours.
Okay, thank you. So I'll now put questions to board members. Is there any questions? Councillor Steele.
Many thanks, Convener. Just a couple of quick questions for Mr. Emsley. Morning, Mr. Emsley. Excuse me, my computer's making noises. Good morning, Mr. Emsley. Can I take it from the end of your submission there, the applicant, Mr. I was going to call him Pentangeli, it's not Pentangeli, is it? Mr. Santangeli has asked whether a proper flue, in his words, will be fitted. Your argument is that the existing installed equipment is sufficient. Did I get that right?
That's correct. So the when Environmental Health came out in October, all that was checked because new ventilation extraction was put in 2021, and that satisfied Environmental Health with their requirements. That was October 24.
20.
Yes, that's correct. Sorry.
Thank you. My final question, and I'm sorry, Mr. Santangeli isn't here to answer this one. It's point 5 in the letter the objector has submitted, Convener, which states quite unambiguously that there is a problem, people drinking alcohol, but more concerningly throwing bottles into my garden. Now, I can't ask the objector to expand on that because he's not here, unfortunately, but and he's obviously Mr. Emsley and his client are under no obligation to answer it, but could I ask for their opinion on that, that claim that the objector has made?
in my experience, Your Honours, with 40 years in working in the retail sector, I would find it unusual for individuals to purchase alcohol to immediately go outside an off-sales premises and consume alcohol and discard bottles. I'm not saying it doesn't happen, but I would suggest that's unusual. It's an extremely busy road with lots of traffic and lots of pedestrians as part of that. You know, there has been provision outside the shop. I'm not quite sure what more my client could do, you know, other than the fact of it's an off sales for the purchase. And all I would say is I generally find that quite unusual in the experience I have with a number of clients that I represent, where litter, you know, I would have, had it been more around kind of food litter, then I could maybe understand, but it's not common for alcohol to be dispensed immediately outside a licensed premises, in my experience, Your Honours.
Thank you, Convener.
Okay. Is there any other questions from members? I don't see any other questions. Then can I ask then, first of all, for the Sergeant Finlay, would you sum up, please? Or is there anything else you want to add?
Thank you, Convener. No further comments.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Emsley, can I ask you to sum up, please?
Sorry, we propose this as a competent application to kind of broaden the services that the convenience store already offers, and I've nothing further to add, Your Honours.
Can I just say, Mr. Emsley, so you accept all the conditions asked for by the police?
Yes, I can confirm we accept all the conditions.
Okay. Okay. Well, under those circumstances, I think this is fairly straightforward, and I would put a motion that we agree this application. Is that agreed, members?
Agreed.
Okay, thank you.
Agreed.
Okay.
Very much obliged, Your Honours. Thank you very much.
Okay, Mr. Emsley. Yeah, we will go on to the. Are we ready, Doug? Yeah. We'll go on to the second application this morning, which is a provisional premises licence for consideration, and that's for the venue in Well Meadow Street. Douglas, again, can I ask you to introduce this and explain the procedure today?
Thanks, Convener. Yes, this is an application for a provisional premises licence. Can I just identify those present? First of all, I think Mr. McGowan, Stephen McGowan, solicitor, is here for the applicant company and the premises, the venue.
Okay, see that.
Mr. McGowan?
Yes, good morning. Good morning, Mr. Campbell, and good morning, Convener and Your Honours. I am here today to represent the applicant, Ramtay Limited. I also have with me Margaret Patterson, who's I can now see on the screen as well, who is the sole director. She's the operator, so I'm here to speak on her behalf. Thank you.
We have, in addition, Convener, we've got Sergeant Finlay from Police Scotland, who have made a representation in relation to the matter. I also see Mr. McCallum is here in the meeting from Building Standards. I think, Mr. McGowan, you've indicated that you are happy to accept Mr. McCallum's calculation. Is that the position?
Yes, happy to deal with that as a preliminary point. Mr. Campbell, thanks for that opportunity. As Mr. Campbell from Building Standards will know, my client's architect, I think, spoke with him about the report which came in. We, based on the feedback that we've had from that conversation, we're happy to accept the 173 that Mr. McCallum feels is appropriate. So happy to give that undertaking just now as part of the hearing. We may well look at some point in the future, all being well, to revisit that, you know, by way of potential works to the premises to justify an increase, but it is what it is for now. So we're happy to live with the 173. Hopefully that helps.
Yeah. Convener, there's one preliminary issue to come back to, but can I just confirm, Mr. McCallum, does that short circuit matters for you today, Mr. McCallum?
Douglas, I confirm, yes, it does.
Douglas, you're on mute.
My apologies, Convener. This is an application for a provisional premises licence as indicated. Couple of matters that I highlighted. You'll see in the paperwork what the application is looking for. There is an off-sales element, so we have included on the citation papers the delivery conditions. for consideration by the board as to whether it should be included. Mr McGowan can address that. Obviously, because it's a provisional premises licence, it's new, for the board to be able to consider the possible ground of refusal of over provision, that obviously a locality has to be defined. I don't know whether, I'm presuming Ms McCallum, you won't have any interest in that matter. The police, I think your concerns are more around ours. But Ms McGowan, I think you'll want to address what locality the board should be looking at in relation to this matter.
Yes, happy to do that. I mean, I think I have no firm view on it, Your Honours. I'm more than happy to simply abide by whatever locality you think is appropriate. With respect to the off sales, it's a very, very modest part of what this application would be about. So as I'll go on to explain in the wider submission. So very happy to simply accept whatever locality you think is appropriate.
We have plans, convener. It's the same exercise as in the last application. We have plans showing a 200, 400 and 800 radius. And do you have a motion, convener, for the board?
Yeah, I'll put forward that we look at the 400 metres. Is that agreed, board?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. So it'll be 400 metres.
Thanks very much, members. In relation to that 400 metres agreed locality, there are 10 on-sales premises with a combined capacity of 2558, and there are 6 off-sales only premises with a combined capacity of 205.69 square metres. Ms McGowan, what would you be asking the board to look at all premises, or would you be asking to look at a smaller number of premises of type?
Again, I think given what I'm going to go on to say about the very small significance of off sales to this operation, I'm happy to be guided by Your Honours as to what you think the appropriate number is. I think it's obvious that given the type of premises this is, it's not readily comparable to, for example, a shop or a supermarket. That's not what the venue is, and it's not what it wants to be. So I think, again, Your Honours, I'm very relaxed about that and simply happy to agree to whatever number you think is appropriate.
Convener, do you want to look at all premises or particular types of premises? So obviously we've subdivided it into on and off. The premises, I think Ms McGowan's going to indicate, is obviously providing entertainment.
We'll look at all premises, Douglas. Put that forward.
Agreed by members then?
That agreed?
Agreed.
Yep. Okay.
I can just confirm then, convener, that the board will have regard to all premises in the area. That includes the 10 premises with 2558 combined capacity and the 6 off sales only premises with combined capacity of 205.69 square metres. And I think that concludes all the preliminary matters, convener.
Okay, thank you. So can we hear from Sergeant Finlay first to speak to the representation? Sergeant Finlay.
Thank you, convener. So the applicant has applied for a provisional premises licence in respect of live music and events venue, which is located within a mixed residential and business area. The hours requested for on sales are 11 AM to 0100 in the morning, and off sales 11 AM till 2200 hours each day. Your Honours, the Renfrewshire Licensing Board policy states that the terminal hour for on sales between Sunday to Thursday should be midnight for this type of premises. Therefore, the hours requested for Sunday to Thursday exceed those which are permitted within the licensing policy. In respect of preventing public nuisance licensing objective, given that the premises are situated within a mixed residential area, I respectfully request that the terminal hours for Sunday to Thursday are amended to mirror those permitted within the Renfrewshire Licensing Board's own policy. Also, Your Honours, you will see from the layout plan provided that the whole premises will be licensed, including any areas where patrons would not be expected, such as the offices and cellar area. The applicant's agent has intimated that alcohol would not be available in these areas, but I would respectfully ask that the following conditions be added to ensure that no alcohol is taken into areas in which the patrons should not be consuming alcohol. There are 3 conditions. The first is that no alcohol be taken into any area to which the public do not have access. Second is that no alcohol to be taken out with the confines of the building. And the third condition is no alcohol to be taken into any toilet area. And that concludes the representation. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Sergeant Finlay. Can I now ask Mr. McCallum to speak? I know that Mr. McGowan has agreed with the 173, but if I can ask you to speak to the application, please.
Yes, convener. The application we received, the initially requested 416 persons occupant capacity. It was assessed by building standards, and our assessment was that it should be restricted due to limitations in terms of capacities, particularly in relation to fire exits and means of escapes. And that's why we've reduced it to 173. I would advise that we have since had conversations with the applicant's architect, and we have identified alterations that can be done to the premises that would allow the occupant capacity to be increased, and that could be submitted at a later date, where the board minded to approve the application as a major variation to premises licence.
Okay, thank you, Mr. McCallum. Now, Mr. McGowan, I'll ask you and also to take on board the police representation and explain why you think that this should be an exception to our policy.
Thanks, Councillor McCune, convener. Of course, more than happy to do that. If I maybe just give a wee bit of context and so forth, just to help us with the application. I suppose it's fair for me to say, Your Honours, this has been this application today has been a bit of a long time in the making. It's hopefully a chance for us to finally move forward with a full licence for this premises. The venue is principally a live music premises venue. It has traded with occasional licences over a long period of time for events like live bands and things of that nature. Some of your honours who sit on the regulatory committee will remember that the premises has now got and been granted a public entertainment licence. I remember Councillor Steele was in the committee hearing when those separate licences were considered. I'm not sure if any other members may have that awareness as well, but I'm just mentioning it to give some comfort to this board that the full public entertainment licence is now in place for the premises as well. So we've got that in place. In terms of the applicant, Your Honours, Margaret is a long-standing licensee in Paisley, as I'm sure some of you will know. She's operated the Pater Bar for, I think it's 30 years or thereabouts, a long time anyway. She's got good relationships with the local police and LSOs, and has previously won awards in the Scottish licensed trade for her efforts. So she's a very well kent face, if I can put it that way, in the licensed trade in Paisley. As I explained, Your Honours, the application today relates to this premises. It has been trading from occasionals for some time, and hopefully today is the day that we can put that behind us and move forward with a proper permanent licence in place to look forward. In terms of some of the comments which have been made, happy again to state for the record the 173. Also happy to align with the comments from Mr. McCalman about the potential to revisit it. If your honours are with us today, of course, if you're with us today, at some point in the future, we may continue those discussions through the architect with Mr. McCalman's office to potentially come back to increase the capacity, but that's for another day. If I turn to the police letter, I'm hoping that we may all be on the same page with this once you've heard what I have to say. To be fair, convener and your honours, if I can just pick up on the point about the hours, what we've asked for in this application is 11 AM to 1 AM 7 days a week. Now, Sergeant Finlay and the police letter have rightly pointed out that your policy for public house premises is midnight during the week. I would respectfully say to Sergeant Finlay and the board I'm not sure if it's right to say that this application is outside of policy. Your Honours are more than familiar with your own policy. Your policy allows a premises to trade to 1 AM, and in fact longer than that in some occasions, where the premises is an entertainment venue. So I'm not quite clear why the police have reached the view that this should be treated as a pub, when I think it's not a pub. It's very definitely not a pub premises. It's a premises which runs and is known as a live music venue, an entertainment venue. It's got a massive dance floor. If you're familiar with the layout, your Honours will have access to the layout plans. I mean, the whole centre of the premises is one big dance floor. People will go and dance to the music that's being played. Some I grant you might dance better than others, your Honours, but that is the principal purpose of the venue. Now, having said that, I'm making that comment purely as a observation to say I'm not quite sure that I agree with the police's interpretation of what the policy should be. I say that respectfully, and at the end of the day, your Honours, whether or not you agree with me or not, the key point for me is that my client will abide by the decision of the board. So if your Honours think that I've got this wrong, and that my interpretation of your policy is not accurate, and you think that midnight is the appropriate hour, then we would accept that, because we don't wish to create any adversarial position. We wish to work with you and with the police. And if you think I've got that wrong in terms of your policy, we will live with the midnight during the week. So just to put that on the record, and hopefully that makes matters clear for us all. If I then go into the rest of the police comment, the police letter again makes for me a slightly odd comment about the fact that the licence covers the whole building rather than just areas where alcohol would be consumed. I have to say I was quite taken aback at that comment, because as your clerk will know, the standard approach is to license the whole building. You don't have a license that just covers the public areas. That's been the case throughout the 2005 Act. It was the case back under the old 1976 days as well. The red line should cover the whole premises, including the back of house areas, and there's very good reasons for that. And one of the primary reasons for that is because it's to allow police access. If you've got a license that only covers certain areas, then the police don't have the access rights to the areas that are not licensed. So it's a very odd comment for me. To me, it makes perfect sense that, as with every other application you tend to deal with, the red line covers the entirety of the premises. That ensures the police have access to the entirety of the premises, and it ensures regulation of the entirety of the premises. So again, I would just respectfully say I'm not sure where the police are coming from on that comment. The layout plan does cover the whole premises. The police's letter suggests that the way to deal with this would be by proposing those conditions regarding alcohol not being allowed in certain areas. So again, just to give comfort, whilst I'm making a sort of technical point about what areas should be covered by a licence, we're very happy with the 3 conditions the police have offered. They're very sensible, they're very reasonable, and of course, Margaret's not going to allow alcohol into the toilets in areas like that. So of course we'd be happy to live with those conditions. What I would say though, if you'll forgive me, from a legal perspective, is, are those conditions necessary based on the wider point that I've just made? Do you, as a matter of course as a board, attach conditions to pubs licenses saying don't take alcohol into the toilets? I mean, it's not something I've seen in previous applications. So whilst I wish to give your Honours comfort that of course we would abide by those conditions, it's the right thing to do, my point would be, is it actually proportionate or necessary to have those types of conditions added to the licence? So it's a broad technical point I'm making. I don't wish to belabor it any further, because ultimately Margaret's very happy to do what the police are asking in terms of the operation of the premises, and I hope that just kind of again gives everyone some comfort around those points. The last thing I want to mention, just to kind of cover off the point about off sales that I mentioned before, given your Honours know what type of venue this is, I just wanted to be clear, we're not seeking some sort of retail off sale shop or anything like that. The off sale request is not too dissimilar to the fact that your Honours know it's very commonplace for pubs to have off sale licenses and on sales premises to have an off sale facility. So I suppose it's not unusual in that sense, but for this specific premises, Really, the only reason we want off sales is to cover off the odd occasion when the premises might be hired out for something like a food market or a tastings event. We have got wording in the licence that covers that. And although, as I've said, the principal purpose of the venue is to be a live music venue, Margaret would like the flexibility of being able to use the space, you know, maybe on an afternoon one day, maybe someone hires it out to do some sort of show or something, and maybe there's an off-sales element as a part of that. So it's really just that, hopefully very modest, restricted element of why we're asking for off-sales. And again, with some of the other points I've made, Your Honours, it's a very small part of what Margaret wants to achieve. She'd like to have it. It would be nice to have it. Is it something that would die in the ditch over? No. The most important thing today is to have the licence, the premises licence granted to move away from the occasionals, and that's our key. That's Margaret's key aim and aspiration today, is to have Your Honours with us on that point. So again, I would simply say, on off sales, you've got my explanation. We're in your hands, and we'll abide by whatever decision Your Honours reach about that element of the application. I hope I've not gone on too long. I just wanted to cover some of those points. Hopefully that was helpful. But I would just summarise by saying we're very, very pleased that we've got to this point. We hope Your Honours will support us. We're very glad to see that there's no public objections. There's no, there's not actually any adverse comments. Although the police have made some points, the police are not objecting to the application. They were just looking for some comfort on some issues. Hopefully, I've given that comfort. I would commend the application to you, and as always, happy to take any questions. Thanks, convener.
Right, okay, Mr. McGowan, before I open it up to questions from members, yes, you had said quite a bit there, and you mentioned conditions, and I think you did make a point of stating that you would accept the conditions, but you also did say that you felt that the conditions were unnecessary, that they shouldn't have been there in the first place. Am I picking that up correctly?
Yes, convener. I suppose it's a technical point. I wish to give you comfort that we do not wish to argue with the police. The police's conditions are sensible in the sense that, of course, Margaret's not going to allow people to take alcohol into the toilets. But my point to you is, why would that be a condition on the licence? It's not a condition that you put on pub licences. It's just a part of this licensing system. And I think the reason why the police have offered that condition is because it flows from, in my view, with respect, the misunderstanding that the licence should not cover back of house areas, when of course it should cover those areas. So that's my point, and I'm in your hands.
Okay, one other question that you did mention there. It's not a pub. That doesn't usually get covered in a pub licence, but you did make a point of saying it's not a pub, it's an entertainment venue.
It is an entertainment venue. It is an entertainment venue. That's the principal purpose of this premises, Councillor McEwen. My point is this: when this board grants premises licences for on sales, it does not normally attach the types of conditions that the police are asking for. Whether it's an entertainment venue or a pub or a restaurant, those conditions do not normally appear. And I think the reason they don't normally appear is because it's understood that the entirety of a premises is covered by the licence. So I hope that's clear.
Okay, thank you, Mr. McGowan. I'll now open it up to questions from members, and I can see Councillor Gray wishes to ask a question. On you go, Councillor Gray.
Aye, thanks, convener. It was just, Stephen, just to clarify, I picked up on that realistically what Councillor McEwen was just saying there as well. When it was coming to the terminal hours, you're saying it wasn't classed as a pub, but when you're looking for your the off sales license, you're classing it as a pub. So I kind of got lost. Is it a pub? Is it not a pub? Is it a venue? Is it not a venue? Because you went from it's not a venue, the hours are totally different, it's going to be this, but you're classing it as a pub when you're wanting your off license.
Happy to deal with that, Councillor Gray. As I've said before, this premises is not a pub, it's a music-led entertainment venue premises, and anyone who knows the venue will know that that is the correct description. When I referenced pubs in connection to the off-sale licence, it was merely to point out that it's very common that on-sales premises like pubs do have an off licence inbuilt into the licence. It was not to compare the venue to a pub, it was to compare the request for the off-sales licence in the sense that it's commonplace to have pubs that have off licences. I'm not saying the venue's a pub. What I am saying is that it's quite common for on-sales premises like pubs to have an off-sales licence. What I've also said, Councillor Gray, and I don't want to repeat myself too much, but what I've also said is there's a very specific reason why Margaret would quite like to have an off licence. It's for these food events, markets, you know, it's that type of thing, which is an event. It's not a public house style offer. But what I've also said, Councillor Gray, is that it's a very small part of the application. And if your honours have any nervousness about it, then we will abide by a decision to not insist upon it. It's a small part of what we'd like. I hope that helps.
Okay.
Oh, thanks, Stephen. As I say, I was just clarifying. Thanks.
Okay, Councillor
You're welcome.
McFarlane.
Yeah, thanks, convener. Stephen, can I just clarify? I get that there's been a lot of things on about how there's been a lot of occasionals asked for over the years, and I'm certainly very aware of that. I've had occasional being asked at about 4:30 on a Friday for an event that was happening the next day. So can I just ask that, is Margaret now the sole proprietor and owner of this business? Because I'm aware that there was a bit of a stooshy at one point regarding the ownership, and I just want to be clear that I know Margaret's got a great reputation in Paisley, and I'm satisfied with that. I just want to clarify she's the only one that would be on the lease and the only one that's running the business.
So thanks for the question, Councillor McFarlane. I've obviously not sought to go into the wider previous history because I didn't think that was relevant on the grounds that we're looking to go forward. But you know, you've raised a point about your own observations. Happy to deal with it. The answer is that Margaret is the only person that's dealing with this premises and operates the premises. I don't think it would be appropriate for me to name the gentleman that I think you're referring to, Councillor McFarlane, but you and I think both know who you are referring to, and I can give you a categorical assurance that that gentleman is not involved.
Stephen, thanks very much. Yeah, I get that I don't want to go into the history and that. I was very much for going forward that I know that's the position. That's a lot of reassurance from my side of things. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. Councillor Steele.
Thank you, convener. Morning, Mr. McGowan and Mrs. Patterson. Nice
Good
to
morning.
see you again. Nice to see this item before us again, and very nice to see that we have the opportunity to get it off occasionals at last. And hopefully, if approved, provide another boost to the nighttime economy. I've got a question for Mr. McGowan, a question then for Sergeant Finlay. Question for Mr. McGowan is the question of the terminal hour, which is exercising me slightly. I do agree with your point that this will be an entertainment venue and not a pub. There are certain aspects that might be pub-like, but it's an entertainment venue in my eyes. And as such, the point you make about the terminal hour stands, but it is complicated in my mind by the proximity to residential properties, which is not making a generalisation. Entertainment venues would tend to be separate from residential properties to quite the extent that this application premises is hard by. I wonder if I was to put forward the argument that because it's so near to the residential premises, a midnight terminal hour might be preferable. What your opinion on that would be? Thank you.
So thanks for that, Councillor Steele. I assume that you're talking about the midweek nights rather than the Friday and Saturday. Yeah, thank you for the confirmation. So on that basis, if that is the way the wind is blowing and that is the mood of the board, then we would accept a licence with midnight during the week and 1 AM on Friday and Saturday. As I said in my primary submissions, we're in your hands on that point. We've applied for it because from our perspective, we think it is your policy. So we've simply asked for what is your normal policy. But based on the individual aspects of the application that you've identified, Councillor Steele, if you're more comfortable that we drop the 1 AM during the week and the rest of the board is of the same view, then we will absolutely respect that and accept that and move forward.
Much obliged. And my question for I don't know if this is better asked of Mr. Campbell in recess or to Sergeant Finlay, but I was going to ask for Sergeant Finlay's opinions on Mr. McGowan's rebuttal of the police conditions.
Thank you, Councillor Steele. So I think, have we agreed the midnight during the week? Does that need to be discussed any further?
No, I think that's a matter for the board, Sergeant. I think Councillor Steele's just wanting to know your position regarding the 3 police conditions. Is that correct, Councillor Steele?
Thank you for your guidance. So the police position is pretty much as described by Councillor Steele. It's up to the board to interpret their own policy. but despite it being an entertainment licence, the actual effect of what is taking place is large numbers of people drinking alcohol, and from a policing perspective, that can lead to public nuisance and disorder for police and for residents of that area. So that's why we would interpret that more to need to be a midnight closing. And for the second comments in relation to the layout, Mr. McGowan, you're stating what usually happens with these kinds, and you were suggesting that there had perhaps been a misunderstanding on the case of the police in relation to this application. However, each application needs to be considered on its own merits. We will never give a standard answer for every application, and in this case, we believe that the 3 extra conditions about where alcohol should not be taken are pertinent. It's why we've listed them, and we believe that it's important just for clarification, so everyone is absolutely clear about where alcohol is allowed and where it isn't allowed. And I believe you said that you didn't really have any objections to those conditions, but just felt they were a bit strange. It's something that police deem appropriate for this premises. And that's the conclusion of my comments. Thank you.
Is there any other questions from board members? I don't see any. So what I'm going to do is ask for summing up now. So can I ask, first of all, Sergeant Finlay, would you like to sum up? Is there anything else you want to add?
No, nothing further to add. Thank you, convener.
Okay. Mr. McCallum, do you wish to sum up? Is there anything else that you wish to add?
Nothing further to add, convener.
Okay. Mr. McGowan, can I ask you to sum up now, please?
Thanks, convener. I'm sure your honours have heard more than enough from me. You know exactly where I'm coming from Margaret, so no summary per se. I just want to make one last point about what Sergeant Finlay said about the conditions. I think it's a matter for your clerk to advise you on as to whether or not what I've said is appropriate in terms of the points that they've made about the layout plan incorporating back of house areas. From my perspective, that is what happens in every application that is before this board, that the full premises is covered by the licence, not just the public areas. So that was why I was surprised with the comment. With respect to the conditions, as I've said already, the 3 conditions are reasonable. They are how Margaret will operate this premises. But if I take one of them as an example to the legal point I'm making, the second condition, no alcohol to be taken out with the confines of the building, that's simply a restatement of what the Act requires. When we're talking about placing conditions on a licence, the condition has to be necessary and proportionate. And that's a condition that, to give an example, it's the same thing as saying, it's the same thing as adding a condition to the licence saying that they won't sell alcohol to under 18s. You don't add a condition to the licence where there's already a legal requirement on the face of the legislation. That's my point. So I suppose what I'm saying is I'm in your hands on this. I really don't want to make a mountain out of a molehill out of these points, your honours. If you feel it's appropriate to impose those conditions, notwithstanding what I've said, Margaret will accept them and she will operate to those conditions, and I hope that makes everyone happy.
Thank you, Mr. McGowan. I'm now going to have a short recess, and then we will come back with the decision. Okay, so we'll have a short recess.
Thank you, your honours.